Uh, Good evening, everybody. I think most of the things have already been discussed. I would just quickly wrap it up. My couple of controversial things are first and foremost is that I would just quote that everybody wants to know when this will end, but that is not the question. I just saw the IGO review, IGO article. I mean this issue, and it says that this is not the right question to ask when this will end, but the right question is how do we continue with this? Because I think we are, in this situation for a long haul. I don't think this is going to end in another couple of months, and so whenever we think about it, we have to understand that our safety is paramount. And so, as in the course of webinar, we discussed that we have to consider all the patients as positive patients until proven otherwise, which I don't think it in near future that there would be a very concrete test. At least it is couple of months away before we find out that this particular patient is negative. And one of the most important differences between HIV and HBsAg and COVID-19 is that this virus is highly contagious. That we have seen with the current test sensitivity being very low, and with the test not telling us what the viral load is, we absolutely are in the dark. So we have to consider all the patients as positive until we know for sure that this is not a positive patient. We all have seen, read that even today's news, which Mukesh bhai said that even with PPEs, the SMS Jaipur doctors, they got COVID positive. So we don't know whether PPE, first of all, what is the standardization of PPE for this particular virus, and second thing is, even after doing all and every precaution with the PPEs, they knew what they are going in for, and yet they got infected with COVID virus. So I won't take it very lightly and embark upon doing the surgery, because we don't know what we are actually dealing with. We are just thinking that it could be very similar to HIV or HBsAg, and we are already taking enough precautions. Maybe with coming days we may be able to find out what is going on and why this virus was more contagious. We know why it is more contagious, but even further information can come how it can dodge the PPEs. So we are absolutely in this for at least 18 to 24 months, I think, because there will be pockets, there will be swine flu like seasons when it will come back. So we cannot stop working, but we have to devise how to do it. Vaccine is nowhere close to 1 year, and that is also very optimistic estimate. And meaning the lockdown, the whole pandemic thing is not going to go away very quickly. So we will start someday. So what should we do? We should plan to start. The most important thing is to go slow. Start First of all, start with just the staff, couple of patients. This I took from Chetra's commentary in this issue of IGO. I think it is very pertinent to us, except the third point, which is not for private practitioners. We don't have separate rooms for taking care of designated COVID infection patients. In fact, these particular patients, as per medical legal opinion, we can definitely say that we are not equipped to handle COVID infected patients. So at this point of time, we can just tell them to go to a multi-specialty hospital. No need to take that patient, and we don't have any idea what we are
Hello.
dealing with. So there's no point in fighting it out. Yeah, please tell me. Hello, should I
Yeah,
continue?
sorry.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, continue,
So
continue, continue.
yeah. So to begin with, these are few things which I had thought I would be doing. Non-contact thermometer. I don't know how good it is or how bad it is. Self-declaration form, again, it is actually a little bit controversial, but I think in all these situations, what happens is the question is always asked to the doctor what they did and it is not asked what they did not do. So it is better to go with a consent form and a self-declaration form, even with whatever whatever value they have medico legally, because at least it shows the intent that we were trying to find out whether the patient is COVID positive, and we were trying to help the society. So that intent is what changes. In medical legal terms, it changes us from act of omission to act of it changes the whole system, that we took adequate precautions. We tried to do whatever was necessary. I think telemedicine and teleconsultation is going to help us a lot, because we will have to reduce the number of scheduled visit by the patient. And as I said in my earlier webinar also, that a group of doctors can make it for themselves. The cost involved is not much, and if a city society joins together with 40-50 doctors, the cost will come down to almost 2,000 rupees or maybe even 500 rupees, because it is not a very huge application or huge data or data coding. So I think training the staff will go a long way. Arogya Setu is not only for patients. First thing is to tell the staff to download it, because they also are like patients only. We don't have really trained or hi-fi staff. We all are private practitioners. We have some people who are into the hospital for almost 8 to 10 years working with us, and so they are medical people. They have not been trained to do something, just that they were working for us, so they have become trained in things which are supposed to be medical. Because as ophthalmology, we are not really into hardcore medicine. We are mainly doing ophthalmological work. So we have to understand that we are in this together with them. It is like their safety is directly proportional to their knowledge, and that is directly proportional to our safety. So retraining them, monitoring, mock drills, and that is why we should start slow. We should impress upon them what is the seriousness of the subject. We should train them about what is fomites, how it can get transferred, and then we should monitor what they are doing, whether they are doing it properly or not, and train them, retrain them. We should at least call them twice to right now when we have closed our OPD, we should call them, meet them, and try to tell them that this all will be done for the cleaning of the OPD. And one important thing is that I personally believe that we should keep our doors of OPD open for ventilation, because viral load, ultimately everything said and done, it comes back to the question of why some of the doctors are more seriously affected than others, and then it comes back to the viral load only. So we have to understand that viral load can only be reduced by proper ventilation. So I think that would be very, very important. Social distancing, maintaining the distance. This also again I took from day before yesterday, the IGO which has come up. They have, as told by most of the speakers, they have come up with wonderful guidelines, and this is about comprehensive ophthalmology and cataract. So these are the emergencies which they have shown that which patients to see, and which are the patients which are urgent, and then there are planned surgeries, and then there are planned cataracts. This is just for pediatric ophthalmology, and there's a huge list for us, especially ROP screening, diplopia, and glaucoma patients. And these are further reading for ideas like the first one is by WHO as to how to prepare disinfectant. There were some questions as to how to prepare sodium hypochlorite 1%. And then the second link is from Arvind Eye Hospital, Pondicherry. The third link is the guidelines which we should be following. These are guidelines by MCI. And the fourth one is basically about a teleconsultation, which you can yourself, get a hold of a basic IT person who can make for a group of doctors. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jitendra. Very nice presentation and summary. Here, I want to ask you a question. Many people are concerned about the patient in the OT, full PPE and all that stuff. But I believe that it is the OPD which is more important for us, where we can get exposed to larger number of patients, larger number of relatives, and more at risk. In the OT, anyway, we are going to follow the standard precautions, and most of the time that would be adequate, I suppose. So what is your opinion?
Absolutely. But most important thing is that, see, in OT, you are going with a set purpose. You are going for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It is all predictable. OT is very predictable because you will be testing the patient, you will be talking with the patient, you know him in and out. It is obviously the OPD where it is completely not under your control. Things are going, people are coming, people are going. See, OT is as such completely under your control. So you can control the movement, you can control everything. You can tell the patient to sit quietly and he will sit quietly. He won't be speaking. You can put a mask on his mouth and things can be taken from there. But when it comes to OPD, anybody, can just walk in and can ask questions. Some relative may barge in. So OPD is obviously not really controlled place.
Yes.
So the chances of infection are really high in OPD.
Usually in anterior segment surgeries, what we do is we keep the mouth of the patient open to allow for aeration. But here you should do the reverse. Put a mask on every patient in the OT under the drape. Okay, so that is very important. Keep a mask on the patient on, don't remove it. He'll feel a little bit suffocated and all that, but you'll have to do a little bit of counseling, but that is okay. But OT patient also needs a mask. That is the main thing. Okay. So
Even
any questions?
the ROP lasers which we are doing, we take a oxygen mask and put it on his mouth and then tape it. Even the small kid, we make sure that his nose and mouth are covered during the lasers.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yes, you can add oxygen if you want to, but a mask is important.
But the mask is important.
Yes, right. Now I would request our secretary